Well, good morning, everyone. Just wanted, in case you didn't hear that message, I wanted to let everyone know that we are recording the webinar this morning. We are so excited to welcome back Dr. James Flowers and so many of you from gathering a few weeks ago. He is back by popular demand, as they say, to continue his presentation, Unleashing the Power Within, the Science of Manifesting Your Life. And Dr. Flowers, there is great enthusiasm for what awaits us in the upcoming hour.
Oh, thank you
Uh,
so much.
For those of you who were not able to join us last week, this presentation was part of our COA Awareness Week 2024 speaker series. Dr. Flowers' presentation was greatly appreciated by all. He is a world-renowned expert in this field and maintains a very ambitious travel schedule, from what I understand, Dr. Flowers.
Yeah,
And we are just so grateful for your kindness and your generosity today to agree to return and to continue this presentation.
thank you so much.
We
You ready for me to
appreciate.
start?
Oh, well, I'm going to do a little more introduction
Oh,
if you
okay.
like. Otherwise, if you're excited to start, I can just pass it over to you right now.
I'll just
Um,
start. How about that?
What I thought I would do is just take a quick moment to introduce Dr. Flowers to those who are joining us for the first time. We're so grateful for your continuous contribution to everyone who cares about children and families who are impacted by the disease of addiction, and so much of what you do. So much that you do and that you provide to the community helps us all help children and families heal. And we just can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you so much. This is special to my heart because obviously children and young adolescents in general and young children are really close to my heart, and realizing that trauma affects our lives in such different ways, but it's a significant impact on all of our lives. And so today, what I'd like to talk about really has to do with a little bit of resilience. It has to do with some of my own history and my own trauma, my own PTSD from childhood, and kind of how I overcame really a early childhood of trauma, devastation, lots of death in my family, lots of cancer, lots of alcoholism and addiction, and really a very, very dysfunctional childhood. And being able to do therapy and overcoming that and releasing that and realizing that as sick as my mother was as an individual, and as much as I loved my mother, she's passed away, but as much as I love and loved my mother, both as a child and even today, she was a Valium addict, a benzo addict, probably an alcoholic as well, became sober later in her life. And my father was an alcoholic, died in front of me when I was 10 years old of a heart attack. And it just goes on and on and on. But one thing that my mother always taught me from the time I can remember my first memory is I can remember sitting in a car driving down the street with her and her telling me, you can do absolutely anything in your life that you want to do. And my grandfather was a surgeon, and I come from a family of a lot of physicians. And my mother would say, you can be a physician, you can be a surgeon, you can be a neurosurgeon, you can be an astronaut, you can be a policeman, you can be a school teacher, whatever you want to do, you can do. I just want you to be able to help other people and whatever it is that you choose to do in your life. But I want you to know, as this little kid, you can do whatever you dream of in this world. And I really held on to that. And I still hold on to that today. I've proven it time and time again in my own life, in my own career, in my own, just really overall life. So I'm going to get started. It's a continuation of unleashing the power within, the science of manifesting your life. But I'm going to go all the way back, and I'm going to run through these slides because there are people that were here and then there were people that weren't here. And I always say this a little bit differently. So when we're talking today, I'll say some things that some of you have heard, and then I'll say some things a little bit differently. But before we get started, yesterday, I'm still in therapy. I go to therapy every week. I see a psychiatrist every single week, not for medication, but for therapy. And her entire practice for 37 years is 100% physicians. So she only treats physicians, and for 37 years, which is a really cool niche. And she talks a lot. She and I have a collaborative relationship as well, but she's talked a lot about the trauma of healing professionals. And so I see her every week. And yesterday we were in session, and she said, "You know that painting behind you?" She said, "It looks kind of, do you do all of your Zooms with that painting behind you?" And I was like, "I do." And she's like, "Well, let me see the rest of it." So I want to show you guys. I'm going to change the way I do these Zooms because she said, "You should really change that." So that's my thinking man back there. And it was actually painted by a psychiatrist. And it's titled Thinking Man, and it's in person. I have a black wallpapered wall behind me, but that painting looks incredibly gorgeous on that black wall, and that gold is actually 24 karat gold leaf that's on there. And so it's a really cool painting, and in person it's even cooler. So sorry for cutting him half off, but there you go. That's my painting. So we're going to talk today about manifesting your life, and we're going to talk about the science of manifesting your life, how to harness the power of visualization, having a positive mindset, which can kind of come and go and ebb and flow, activating the law of attraction, empowering your self-belief system, and having confidence in yourself and your ability to overcome, and gratitude and positive energy, and integrating action and alignment. And when I'm saying this, I mean you guys doing this for yourself, and you guys working with children and adolescents, because again, the adolescents and children that we all work with are damaged in some capacity. And for me, it is such a big part of my process of therapy, of teaching and allowing young adults and young children to understand that they really can do anything in life that they want, no matter what we've been through in our past. And no matter how dark and how bad it was, we can have the power, or we do have the power to overcome that. Oh, I'm going to start sorry, I didn't do that right, guys. So I'm going to go through here and go down. If you see it in your mind, you're going to hold it in your hand. And I believe that. And I tell all of my people, if you can see it and you can believe it, you can absolutely achieve it. What is the power of visualization? The power of visualization is our ability to create an outcome that we don't see today, that's not manifested in front of us. And by visualizing in the present tense, our brain creates new pathways through what we refer as neuroplasticity, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And it accesses our creative subconscious and notices the aligned opportunities. Our brain creates these pathways. They're not there, but it creates new pathways, and it accesses that creative subconscious in our brains. So the types of imagination is a major component of visualization, and there's synthetic and creative imagination. And then there's the reticular activating system. Visualizing activates your reticular activating system. And it has one job, that RAS, right? Reticular activating system. And that is filtering. And by visualizing, we start the reprogramming process so that your brain starts to align with our thoughts and our desires. And I always also tell every individual that I work with that I believe, other than God, the most powerful thing, and whatever your God is, the most powerful thing on the face of this earth is this brain right here. it can do anything that we want and anything that we set our minds to. And we just have to learn how to reprogram the negative thoughts and the negative thinking and overcoming trauma so that it starts to align with what we want. And so when we think negatively, we're attracted, and our brain begins to attract negative thoughts and emotions, which create negative activities. When we begin to think positively and beautifully and peacefully, and we realign, then the brain starts to align with positivity and beautiful creative things in our life, and then our, most importantly, the desires that we want in our life. Be clear about your desire. Write it down, speak it out loud every single day. I still have things on my bathroom mirror that are goals or things that I want to do, and places that I want to go, and activities that I need to accomplish. And I want to run the Chicago Marathon this year. It'll be my 29th marathon. But I haven't trained in about a year. And so I'm getting back into running, and that marathon is in October. And so it'll be about a 15-week training course for me, but I speak that every day out loud that I'm going to run and complete in about 3.5 hours is my goal, the Chicago Marathon this October. And I say that every single morning as probably I'm brushing my teeth or finishing brushing my teeth. Believe that you already have what you desire. And in other words, I'll speak to running a marathon. And I always also tell people life is absolutely a marathon, and I apply it to my own life as well. It just doesn't happen overnight. We have to start at the bottom and work our way to the top. But if you believe that you already have it, and you believe that you've completed the marathon, you see yourself crossing the marathon line with other people running in the sides of the street with people cheering, it really does help your mind start believing and helping you believe that you can cross that finish line. Obviously, the power of visualization benefits are determining what you want. It sparks inspiration. So again, I'll keep it simple and talk about a marathon. And when you see yourself crossing a finish line and people on the line, on the streets cheering and holding up signs, and the line across the street that you run through, and the finish line with the timing clock, it inspires you, right? If you're not a runner and you've never been a runner, but you can visualize yourself crossing that line, that inspires you to actually do it. So helping yourself, even as a non-runner, a non-athlete, someone that's never run a mile in their life, can actually finish a marathon with about a 15-week training session of working your way up. And it really does inspire you when you visualize yourself doing it, and it boosts your motivation to get out and run, either in the morning or the night or whenever it is that you like to run. And it also increases your confidence level and helps you change the thought process of, oh my God, I could never run a marathon. That's 26.2 miles. I've never run a day in my life. There's no way I can run a marathon. And let me assure everyone on this course today that you can all run a marathon. I believe if we have one leg, if we have, and we're in a wheelchair, whatever it is, we can make that 26.2 miles happen, and we can do it. And it increases your confidence when you do determine what you want. It inspires you and it motivates you by speaking it out loud and reading it every day. And it also has a side effect of improving your mood through various ways. One is your brain is turning itself into positive thinking, and it's also seeing the finish line, and it's also helping release serotonin and dopamine and all these things in your body that allow your mood to actually improve and feel better. I'm going to skip this slide and go to neuroplasticity. The brain is actually capable of rewiring and moving highways from left to right and changing. If you can visualize the nervous system and a bunch of thousands and thousands of nerve endings and axons in the brain that are connected to each other and neurons, and it's like a highway or if you think of yourself looking at all the stars in a beautiful sky at night, and you think of lines just going from star to star to star, somewhat like how I visualize a brain, and then rewiring that is moving one of those lines from one star to the next star. In other words, creating a new pathway to the end result of what you want. Our brain is actually of becoming malleable. It's already malleable, but it's actually capable of rewiring the negative thought processes, the negative things going on in your life, the negative thinking habits, the trauma, the PTSD, and all of the negative things in our life, whether it's addiction, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's physical pain, to really update itself and release that by practicing what we call neuroplasticity and also positive thinking and manifesting your thought. The power to produce more flexible, but also rigid behaviors. The brain adapts to an ever-changing environment. And what that means is that when you are in a negative environment and you're in a traumatized environment, the brain begins to think and feel negative and releases negative chemicals into our body. And when we're in a positive environment and we stay in that positive environment, or at least we attempt every day to be in a more positive environment, our brain actually changes and evolves into thinking automatically more positive. It takes practice, just like a 15-week training course for a marathon. Changing from a negative thought pattern to a positive thought pattern actually takes practice. And part of that practice is speaking it out loud every day to yourself while you're maybe in the car driving by yourself, or maybe you're at home, or you're in the shower or the bath, or wherever your quiet place is. If you do that, it really does help you change that negative thinking. So there's functional plasticity, and that's the brain's ability to move functions from a damaged area of the brain to other undamaged areas of the brain. And then there's structural, which is the brain's ability to actually change the physical structure of the brain. This has been absolutely validated and in journal articles and through fMRI, which is functional MRI imaging, where we actually see the brain change and we see the rewiring occurring in the brain over time. Our thoughts are associated with what we're feeling and what emotions we're having. And our brain releases chemicals based on those positive or negative emotions. Positive thoughts create positive chemicals, as I said. Negative thoughts create negative chemicals throughout the body. Our bodies respond to this release of chemicals. I think I mentioned this on the last couple of weeks ago, that when I am stressed or I don't get enough sleep, my knees ache like they've never ached before. My hips hurt. And that has been throughout really since my childhood. I can remember, and what that is cortisol. And when my body releases cortisol, it goes to my knees and my hips and sometimes my elbows, but it tends to go to a place in your body that can either be structurally weaker, structurally stronger, somewhere in, some people feel it in their legs, some people feel it in their chest. I feel it in my joints, and it goes right there and creates a burning sensation for me. And our brains and bodies become addicted to those chemicals. And what I mean by that is psychologically addicted and sometimes physically addicted to those chemical releases. Our bodies then signal our brains to produce more chemicals. Chemicals begin influencing the thoughts and feelings. So in other words, if we're constantly in a negative thinking pattern, it's going to release those negative chemicals into your body. Your brain begins to adjust to those negative chemicals, and it influences our thoughts and feelings to begin to think negatively. So we have to catch ourselves when we're thinking negatively and turn it around cognitively and say, that was a negative thought. I'm going to turn that negative thought into a positive thought or a positive visualization. And over time, those negative thoughts and feelings and negative habits begin to disappear from our lives. The connection between the mind and body Based on the release of chemicals, our brains create memorized cellular responses over time. Those memorized responses impact the chemistry and structure of the brain, and they become the fast track. So in other words, when we've gone from a negative state to a positive state, and the neuroplasticity is rewired from negative to positive in the brain, it really does take a shortcut and become this fast track to positive thinking on a more continuous basis, just as it doesn't become a task to turn it from a negative to a positive. It just automatically changes your mind to a negative or positive response. And I'm sure you can all think of people in our lives over the years that we either work with, live with, have had relationships with, that are significant people in our lives. And in our minds, or when we're talking to someone about them, something comes up and says, gosh, everything so and so ever says is negative. Or we have friends that people say, oh my God, she is the most positive person I've ever met in my life. And people tend to be either negative or positive, and there's very little space in the middle, because we tend to attract, when we think negatively, more negative thoughts and speak more negative thoughts. And when we speak positive, we kind of gravitate towards that more positive, becoming fast track positive or fast track negative thinkers and behaviors in our life. And you guys, again, everything that I'm speaking about today has been studied for many, 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 many years, and is in peer-reviewed journal articles about positive thinkers, negative thinkers, neuroplasticity, and this connection between our mind and our body and these chemicals that we release, both positive and negative. And we can rewire ourselves from negative thinking and creating and manifesting whatever it is in our life that we want. That fast track cellular response becomes the easier response. Unfortunately, whether it's positive or negative, it's a fast track and a slow track, and they can occur simultaneously. The fast track dominates, which is better than that slow track. So we want to maintain that fast track by thinking more positively, cognitively, until it becomes habit. In other words, we begin to feel what we think and think what we feel. And when we think positively, we tend to be a positive thinker over a longer period of times. And when we're just down, depressed, and negative and not doing anything to change it, we become physically and emotionally a negative, depressed, negative thinker. And when this occurs, the body becomes our mind and takes over. When our body becomes our mind, we rely on the unconscious or subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind becomes habitual, and the conscious mind is the creative part of our brain. We consciously become creative. How much of our time is spent in our subconscious mind? 50%, 5%, 80%, 95%. The answer is 95%. We are in our subconscious or unconscious mind. And many times, as if you guys think about this, when you're at a dinner table talking to 4 or 5 other people, or you're maybe giving a presentation, or you're talking with a patient or a child or an adolescent, young or whatever age, you can be doing therapy, and you can also be thinking about something subconsciously in your mind that becomes conscious. Oh, I've got to go to the grocery. Oh, I have to cook dinner tonight. Oh, I've got 5 things undone and I have to write all my notes before I go home. And oh, I'm never going to get this done. And that kind of overcompensates, the subconscious does, and becomes more conscious. So we really have to focus on that 95%, changing from subconscious to conscious. And it takes effort to do this. When the subconscious mind is activated, we're unaware. When we remain unaware, we stay in that subconscious mind. When we stay there, our behaviors are like reflexes. So in other words, when we're around negative thinkers and we begin to think negatively and we're with them time after time after time, sometimes it's family members or friends or coworkers, we tend to become reflexively negative. And we do that oftentimes in a subconscious way. And we need to think about our behaviors and our actions and become more conscious about them so that we can cognitively say, this is a negative thought. I'm going to stop, kind of like popping a rubber band for smokers, and go into a more positive thought process, because that will change the way I feel and it will change the environment around me. And awareness in doing that is the key to getting out of that subconscious mind, that 95% of our brain that we're so quiet about. If we become more aware and we cognitively think about what we're actually thinking, oftentimes, unfortunately, it's a negative thought, and we need to change that more into a positive thought process. Getting out of our unconscious or subconscious mind opens that door to change. We cannot control our subconscious, we can influence it. And we can influence the subconscious by becoming aware, because we're unaware, right, when it's subconscious. And we can influence it by becoming aware. And when we're in a state of awareness, again, our body becomes our mind becomes our body. And when our mind is our body, we allow space for being creative, and we can create a more positive. See, I even was negative and started to say negative thought pattern. We can allow for space for creativeness and becoming more positive, leading us to the things that we desire, whether it's safety and comfort, whether it's food, whether it's overcoming trauma and PTSD, whether it's overcoming depression and anxiety, or overcoming chronic pain syndrome, feeling constant, horrible, awful pain. We can actually change that by thinking more positively and more creatively, and allowing our nervous system to calm and allow ourselves to physically and emotionally feel better, because there is no difference between the mind and the body. It's all one. The law of attraction is actually impersonal. It does not see good or bad. It simply receives and reflects your thoughts. So think about that. The law of attraction receives and reflects what you're thinking. So when we're in that negative thought pattern, we're attracting negative thoughts, and negative life actually happens. When we receive and think positively, we're attracting positive thoughts, positive people, and positive things in our life actually happen. And it just is the way life is. It's just the way we were created. It's the way the universe was created. And it's just the way the world is. When we are negative, negative comes to us. When we are positive, positive comes to us. It gives what it receives. The law of attraction is real, and it gives what it receives. And you have to be clear in what you want and what you desire. Don't be, well, I'd like to be in a better mood, right? That's not really clear. You have to be very precise and clear about what you desire, and you have to think that way. And then you will start putting positive things and positive actions into your life to create those things and attract more positivity into your life. When we consistently think about what we don't want, we guarantee that we will not receive what we want. When we consistently think about what we don't want, we're not going to receive what we want. So in other words, I'm going to apply this to a chronic pain patient, or in general, chronic pain patients. When they say, I'm always going to be in pain and I don't want to be in pain, that person will always feel physical pain. When that person says, I am going to be pain-free, or even I am pain-free, that person's nervous system actually begins to calm and slow down the speed of the nerve endings or the nerve cell and the nerve signal that creates pain that goes to the brain that says I'm hurting. And when it slows it down, pain levels drop significantly. And we've seen this again over and over again. I've seen it with many hundreds and hundreds of my own chronic pain patients, that when we consistently think about being out of pain, we become pretty pain-free, if not completely pain-free. So how do you activate the law of attraction? You ask for it. You believe it with all of your heart, your mind, and your soul. So sometimes it's creating a storyboard. Sometimes it's just a sticker on your mirror. Sometimes it's speaking it as you're driving down the street and you pass a house that one day you want to own. Or it's walking through a store saying, one day I'd like to be able to do this. Or it's a job that you want and believing that you already have that job. And you will receive the things that you believe that you can do. It's been scientifically proven that an affirmative thought is at least 100 times more powerful than a negative thought. And that's the power of positivity. When we experience negative thoughts, our body's stress increases. It just does. Again, when we're negative thinkers, we release cortisol into our body and we're stressed, and our body's stress increases. Increased stress inhibits the body's optimal functioning, decreases the amount of sleep that we're having, slows down our digestion, or sometimes actually speeds up the digestion, not allowing us to get the vitamins that we need. And an increased stress affects the body's process all the way down to the cellular level. Negative thoughts actually physically weaken our body. When we are negative on a continuous basis, or even on and off throughout the day, the body takes the more powerful one, which in this case is negative, and it becomes weaker because we're not thinking in that positive way. Positive thoughts enhance physical health. When you think positively and you think you see, or you see yourself crossing a finish line, whether it's a 5K, a 10K, a marathon, a trail runner, whatever it is that you want to do, positive thinking enhances your physical health. It motivates you to get up and go practice. It motivates you to go to the gym. It motivates you to exercise in your own house. It motivates you to eat better. And enhancing our physical health decreases our body's stress. Lowered stress levels help the body function at an optimal level. Positive thoughts actually strengthen the body. They help you become stronger, and our brain helps us become physically stronger because we're actually doing things to increase the strength in our body, i.e., getting up, doing, whether it's as little as doing stretches, or going actually walking around the block, or walking 5 blocks or 10 blocks, or whatever it is, or just stretching in your own home, or in bed before you get out of bed. Make a list of the things that give you instant joy. This is creating the beginning of actually cultivating, rather, a positive mindset. So these are kind of the secret shifters. Make a list of the things that give you joy almost instantaneously. When you find yourself in a negative mindset, focus on that list. And I always say, you know what, create a list of 3 things that give you instant joy. Don't do 10, just think of 3 or 4. It makes it easier. When you find yourself in a negative mindset, think about those 3 or 4 items that give you joy, and a minute or 2 of focus on those positive instant joy items shifts our mindset and our frequency in our body, and creates a more positive mindset, a more positive more positive universe. We have the power to change our internal world. We choose what we think, and our current thoughts create our future lives. All that we are is a result of what we have thought. And that's a quote from the Buddha. All we are is a result of what we have thought. And it's just like people will say, or nutritionists often say, we are what we eat. We also are what we think. Pure potentiality is pure consciousness, which is pure awareness. The field of potentiality is your own self and what you can be, infinitely potential and infinitely possibilities, and infinite possibilities and all creativity lie within potentiality, consciousness, and awareness. When in this field, there's no separation between you and energy, in particular, positive energy, because also when you're in a negative field of potentiality, a negative field of consciousness, and a negative awareness, there is no separation between you and negative energy, which continues to go down the path of negativity and allows you to hit a brick wall every time you want something and every time you think you fail. One of the reasons is that you fail is that you have a negative thought pattern. We weren't prepared because we were negative. We didn't do what we needed to do to get ready because we were in a negative thought pattern, and not creating a positive path to positive energy, allowing us to achieve what it is that we want. Self-referral shifts our internal reference point to our spirit, and it enables us to experience our true self. Self-referral creates self-power. It shifts our internal reference point to our spirit. It enables us to experience our true self. It creates self-power, and self-power is extremely magnetic. In other words, it creates a positive mindset. Accessing the field of potentiality, silence, meditation, non-judgment. This is kind of like Rumi in the house of allowing yourself to sit silently, allowing yourself to meditate, allowing yourself to be non-judgmental, right? Really, this is based on mindfulness training, being silent, meditating, and being non-judgmental, allowing negative thoughts or positive thoughts to come through and kind of release and go outside of your brain while you're doing this. Silence, practicing silence is creating time to simply be quiet, to simply be where you are in the moment, to simply be by yourself or with others in silence. Without silence, our minds become turbulent on a constant level. And, for those of you who have sleep difficulties, by practicing silence, starting in the morning or whenever you can do it throughout the day, starting to do meditation in silence for a few minutes a day allows us to fall asleep easier, because our minds are less turbulent and our minds are turned down, and the volume of our external and internal thoughts are actually slowing down and allowing our minds to repair overnight by getting a better night's sleep. Internal dialogue quiets with persistence, right? Again, even at night when you're ready to go to bed, even the positive thinking and the negative thinking keep you up, right? What we want to do is have an internal dialogue that becomes quiet when we practice it and get a good night's sleep. Each day, set aside time to be silent. Some people have to start doing it a minute a day, doing this 1 minute a day, and working your way up to whatever you can do, whether it's 10 minutes or whether it's an hour or whatever that is. Being silent is so important at some part of our day, and being mindfully silent, knowing that we're being silent, and periodically experience silence for an extended period of time. If you could do it for an hour, it would be amazing. Some people go on retreats, and those retreats can be anywhere from, an afternoon to an entire weekend of silence. And some people even go on a week-long silent retreat where no one talks for an entire week at a time. I've never done that. I'm not sure I could do that. I would love to be able to, but it would be pretty difficult for me to be silent for 1 week. But we can have silence for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever we can do, to allow ourselves to slow down. Meditation allows us to practice that stillness with silence. The connection to pure potentiality is found within stillness, and is found within silence and stillness. meditation allows us to overcome self-limiting beliefs. For instance, again, when you're meditating and you're meditating on the positive, you're going to overcome those self-limiting belief systems, right? When you're driving down the highway and you're thinking about it, you're not really able to focus and meditate because we don't want you to have an accident. So find that time to meditate and continue those positive thought processes in that meditation, and dedicate some time during the day for meditation. We are programmed to consistently judge. And if you really closed your eyes right now and gave yourself 30 seconds or a minute to think about judgment and our own internal judgment and our external judgment, we judge all day long. We judge ourselves, we judge our partners, we judge our family, we judge our patients and clients, we judge everything throughout the day. What someone is wearing, how someone looks, how we feel, our body image, the food that we're eating, whatever it is doing, we often judge. Oh, I shouldn't be eating this today. Oh, I shouldn't have worn this today. Oh boy, she really shouldn't have worn that today. By practicing non-judgment, we allow ourselves to create silence in our minds. So non-judgmental throughout the day, and being non-judgmental when we're being silent or we're meditating, allowing ourselves to let a thought come in, not judging it, and just releasing it into the universe. Judgment blocks the flow of energy, particularly positive energy. Non-judgment unblocks that flow of energy. By allowing a thought to come in and just releasing it, it unblocks that flow and it allows it to come and go quickly. Non-judgment closes the gap between your thoughts and the field of pure potentiality. And it is difficult to do. It is difficult not to judge. It is difficult if you really think about yourself and your day and think about how many times we judge. Even the stoplight and how long it's taking to turn green is a negative judgment. I'm running late because that stoplight is the longest stoplight I've ever sat at. Or a car cut us off in traffic. I'm judging that car for cutting me off in traffic. We've got to be able to non-judgment and just say, car cut me off, it's okay, I'm still here, they didn't hit me, I'm fine. Letting it go. Non-judgment closes that gap between you and the pure potentiality. And it becomes just like a pebble dropping in water. When we allow ourselves to do that, it becomes a ripple effect to those around us. Empowering self-belief and confidence. Without doubt, the most common weakness of all human beings is the habit of leaving their minds open to the negative influence of other people. So the most common weakness of human beings is the habit of being open to the negative influence of other people. And again, that means when someone is in your office or a client or a patient or a family or anyone is in a negative space, allowing that negative space to influence you allows yourself to become judgmental of yourself or others, and it influences the outcome of your day or your week or whatever it is that you're thinking about, or the outcome that you want. So it's a weakness that we have, and it's a habit of leaving ourselves open to people judging us or having a negative influence. So let it go. Demand action, concentrate on your thoughts, develop greater self-confidence, and have a defined chief aim of positivity. Action, thoughts, confidence, chief aim, and aligned actions as well. Memorize that formula, right? Which is the one we just went through. Action, thoughts, confidence, having a chief aim, and aligning those actions. Memorize the formula, repeat it once a day, 20 to 30 minutes of meditation and visualization every day if you can. Desire backed by faith makes the impossible possible. So in other words, I'm going to go back to the simple thing that I was talking about. I have faith that I can get through the Chicago Marathon in October and that I will finish that Chicago Marathon. And if I think negatively about it, going, oh my gosh, sometimes it's 90 degrees in October, even in Chicago, and that marathon has had last year 2 people died and it was really hot. And oh my gosh, I hope that doesn't happen. That affects my training and that affects my ability to even just make it there. Adding feelings to desire creates more powerful frequencies. Unfortunately, that goes for negative feelings and it goes to positive feelings. The positive feeling of creating myself, the visualization of going to the Chicago Marathon, creates more powerful frequencies that absolutely get me to the finish line at the Chicago Marathon. You don't have to start at the beginning. You don't have to start follow a specific timeline. Time can be an illusion and really is an illusion. Everything that you want already exists. Expectation is powerful. It's an attractive force. I expect that I will finish that marathon, or I will get that job, or I will live in a certain area. I have a staff member that is from Kansas City, who moved to Houston because her husband had a job opportunity about 3 years ago. She came here to my practice and has been working, but she wanted to go back to Kansas. We knew that when we hired her. She talked about it, said she's here because of her husband and she's really grateful to have the job she has, but her ultimate goal is to get back to Kansas. And I walked her through positively thinking of living back in Kansas. And she just came to my office yesterday morning, 3 years into it, but said it happened. And her husband has an incredible job offer and they're moving back to Kansas City at the end of this month. But she created in her mind that they are moving back to Kansas, and she spoke it every day, and she gave herself a timeline of 3 years and 6 months, and it happened just before 3 years. So trust your instincts. Allow yourself to create positive thinking and positive outcomes in your life. Gratitude is the way to bring more into your life as well. Having gratitude for everything in your life, whether it's a learning lesson that you learned, or whether it's a gratitude for your family, your health, food on your table, whatever it is, having gratitude is the way of bringing more into your life. Write a gratitude list every single day. One of my staff members went through this, and he has written now, I get a text every day from him. He had been in a negative, horrible spot in his life about year and a half ago, I guess. And I talked to him about gratitude, and I said, make a list for yourself every day and write it down of 10 things that you are grateful for every single morning before you do anything else. Meditate and then do your gratitude list. And every day I get 10. He sends me a text. I didn't ask him to, but he did. And I said, that's fine. And every morning, last night or this morning rather, was day 565 of his gratitude list. And he starts it with 565 days of gratitude. Tomorrow will be 566 days of gratitude, and then 9 other items on there, and being grateful. And his life is drastically changed from where it was just a year and a half ago. Express gratitude for what you want as if you already have it. Thank you. I always say, I talk to God all day long in my mind, and I just talk and say, thank you for this or thank you for that. And one of the things I say is thank you for allowing me to be healthy enough to train to finish the Chicago Marathon in October. Maintain an attitude of gratitude, being full of gratitude for whatever have that list of, whether it's 3 things or 10 things. Maintain an attitude of gratitude in your life, and find gratitude for even the small, tiny things. In Houston, it's March. and we kind of had an early spring. But this morning I was driving to work I drive through one of our city parks to get here, and I just noticed, oh my God, everything is completely green. Everything is budding, the tiniest little buds on all the trees. And it's this vibrant color of green that lasts for about 3 weeks, and then it turns into a darker green. But the green that's sprouting right now in Houston is the most beautiful green. And that's a really small thing, but I'm really I have a lot of gratitude for all of these buds coming out, because it's changing the weather and spring is here. The negative thinking I have is if you can hear my voice, it's kind of scratchy because there's so much pollen in Houston. So what do? I take a Zyrtec every morning to help me with the pollen that we're going through now. Feeling gratitude, positive energy. How much time do I have? Let's see. We have about 10 minutes. Feeling gratitude, positive energy, positive frequencies. Positive energy creates those positive frequencies. Begin your day with gratitude. It sets the tone. End your day with gratitude. And I do every single night before I fall asleep. I say a little prayer of gratitude for the things that happen in my life, and the things that I have, and the things that I desire, and having gratitude for those. And it really does help us create that. Feeling ungrateful is a negative energy and creating negative frequencies. Negative frequencies block the positive frequencies, and focus on what you do have instead of what you don't have. Action with intent to receive, it becomes effortless. It won't feel like work, and it puts us on the frequency to receive. Imagine yourself successful in what that looks like for you. Reflect on all of your past successes. Set your definite goals. Respond positively to life, not negatively. Every failure is an opportunity for success. And every one of us that can hear this morning has failed and will fail in the future. And it's okay. Recreate negative experiences as positive experiences, and it changes the frequency and signals for the next day or even later in that day. No matter how many times you're defeated or feel defeated, try again, because one of these times it's going to work. Persistence is a state of mind. Developing a definite purpose with a definite desire, creating that plan, writing it down, closing your mind to negative, discouraging influences really does help you find your support people. Have support people in your life. Success comes to those who become successful, success conscious, success thinking. And again, this is all taught to you guys, but also to the people that you're working with every day. Brain-derived neuropathic factors is a type of growth factor important to growth and survival. It plays a crucial role in our brain development as children. Low levels of create neurological and psychiatric conditions. High levels create positive mental health. It helps your brain adapt and learn faster. It improves neuroplasticity. It protects against neurodegenerative diseases throughout your life. Sleep is a huge factor in increasing your BDNF. Exercise, nutrition, omega-3, antioxidants, energy-rich diets. Talk to your nutritionist about that, or your physician. Cortisol acts against BDNF, which is stress. Keep stress low in your life. Get rid of stress by thinking positively. You've got to think positively to let go of stress, or it will always be there. This video isn't working this morning, but what this video is, it's a video of Jim Carrey in an interview. And it was one of his interviews where he's talking about his career and manifesting his career, and how many years it took him to become what he considered successful. He said, and early in his career, that he would feel successful when he received a check for $10 million. And so he wrote himself a check for $10 million. And you can Google this, by the way, by saying Jim Carrey check for $10 million. It's a great video. He wrote himself a check for $10 million. He put a date on that check. He signed it and he carried it in his wallet for years. I think it was something like 8 or 10 years or 8 or 9 years. Watch the video if you can Google it. And he carried it with him every single day. And he looked at it every time he opened his wallet. He would glance at a check for $10 million. And he swears that on that date that he wrote on his check, I'll say June the 5th, on June the 5th, he received a check in the mail. That was back when people were writing checks still, from the movie that he had signed a contract on and completed. And the check was $10 million. And it actually arrived on the date that was written on the check in his wallet. And he attributes that to his positive thinking that he will get a check for $10 million. And as you all know, he went on to get checks for 30, 40, 50, $60 million for movies that he was working on. But he attributes it to manifesting his own career. Understand the science of manifestation, harness the power of visualization, cultivate a positive mindset, activate that law of attraction, not the negative one, but the positive one. Empower your self-belief and confidence, nurture gratitude and positive energy. Nurture gratitude and positive energy every single day, all day long. When something positive happens, be grateful for it. When something negative happens, be grateful that you learned a lesson from the negative event. Integrate action and alignment in your life with positive people and positive things. And now you guys get to go practice this in your own lives. And I just want to say again, in my own life, I really have a passion for what I do in my life and in my career. I love working with people, from children all the way to people in their 60s and 70s and 80s. And I'm almost 60, so I'm not calling that old. But when we create positive thoughts and we create goals and we see them and we write them down, we really can achieve what it is that we want. And I did that. I know all of you can do it. And I know that you can teach your clients and your children and your young adults this as well. And no matter where you come from, and no matter how dark and negative it was, we really can create a more positive outcome and manifest our life. So thank you guys very, very much for being here today.
Dr. Flowers, thank you so much for such an amazing presentation. The gift to have you twice has just been so valuable and so appreciative. And a number of people had private messaged me, making sure that we would be providing this recording later today, which we
Great.
will. We will provide CEUs later this afternoon. So look for your inbox, and we will provide a link to this recording for you all. So thank you all for joining us today. We wish you a wonderful afternoon, and looking forward to seeing what you're able to manifest for yourself.
Bye, guys. Thank you.